last time, I don't know why I have all these things here. Last time I left off at new requirement. Actually, it was the exercise where we worked on the exercise and how I dealt with some of the issues we had. So, such as this, right? Saying a template should probably have like unique steps. So I created a set instead. So continue reading. Our checklist software is a huge hit. As more and more people use it, we learned something new about our rocketry domain. Their checklists are massive. For instance, running something like a wet dress rehearsal, where they load propellants into the rocket and run a full countdown sequence, involves a dizzying array of individual steps, which all have to be coordinated across multiple teams. So there's a new feature request. They need to be able to keep track of who completed which step. There should be some basic auditing of which user clicked the button and when. So now in the instance, we want to be able to track who's doing what, right? So updating our requirements, the instance is a new run through of a template at a particular point in time where users coordinate to complete the list of things to do and record the results. The user and time of completion must be recorded. So if we are in straight programmer mode, this sounds like a trivial task, borderline mindless even. Just another attribute or two, of course. We will make sure we understand what these requirements or these additional requirements mean so that we can accurately model them. But after that, well, it's two attributes. How hard could it be? Just add them onto the model. So what do? We create a user. So this is this. So we'll create a record of a user, and it's just gonna be like a string, right? Let's say we only need like a name, right? Only need a name, and we'll put it over here, and we want to know when, right? So let's say it's completed. So let's say before that we create a user. We'll call it completed by this user, and we want an instant completed on. So what time so these are the new things which makes sense, right? To an extent. New rec. Sorry if I can't type on this, is because my keyboard is out of whack. I had to change my keyboard essentially. So this is what we did. Completed by on status, right? So once the status is complete, we want to know who completed it and what time did they complete the job. Is it really that straightforward though? We might not be able to articulate it just yet, but something about the new attribute feels different than the other attributes, right? So these are this status. Yeah, so this looks decent, right? Okay, going on. As their naming implies, they are only relevant once the procedure has been completed, and yet they're always present in our model. That's a problem. Okay, so okay, so it raises an interesting question. What do we put in there before a step is completed? So we'll just put it as null, I guess. To most Java developers, this is this might be a bizarre non-question. It's obvious. We use null for data that are not available yet. However, this is it. For lack of a better term, code. This is, for lack of a better term, code first thinking. Java is the medium, but we are using it to model data. And that data has meaning that we need to capture. We have to train ourselves to notice when the code we are writing causes the meaning of our data to get lost. This is what happened when we introduce these two nullable fields. So we essentially change what status mean. Status mean. So a status used to mean something. It used to mean we have a template. Has it been completed or not? Right, that's all what status is. But now we are introducing two variables. Okay, let's go on. I guess status is a data type, and there's no reason for it to be null at some point, and then not null at some point, right? I think that's what I'm leaning from here. There was a subtle shift in the data's meaning. It's now contextual. Okay, yeah. So yeah. So yeah, I guess yeah. If certain fields are set, then it means one thing. If other fields are set, then it means another thing. This blurring of our data's meaning isn't just being pedantic. It has caused us to take a substantial step backwards. We are trying to use our modeling to get rid of invalid states and unnecessary defensive programming, but the introduction of these fields has done the exact opposite. It has introduced a new invalid state into our program. We now have fields which can be set when they shouldn't be, or not set when they should be. This is now more stuff we have to defend against during construction. So I guess if I were to do something like let's say this is defense, then defense, I guess, and you do this, you're gonna have a public right, and here what we're gonna do is we're gonna create. So what is an instance? What is a template? Template is a list of steps. Let's take steps. Let's start with steps. Right, so let's start with steps. Actually, I can just do var step. Step is going to be equal to new step. Is there a step or a task? New step. Go to new step. Okay, so we have a step. What is the step? The step is start. Let's see, that's what we call it. Start. Completed is false. That's correct. Like I said, sorry for my keyboard. This is new. This is an old keyboard and it's been a while. So we create a step, and then we have to create a template. Template, and it's going to be new. template is rocket start, rocket ignition, that's, I am hoping step is going to be a list of step, I believe, a set of step. All right, so let's create a set of step. Man, this keyboard kills my hand, bro. Steps. You has, oh my god. New have set and steps dot add all this step. Man, this is killing my hand. Okay, something like that, right? And now I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna just add steps, not string, but step. Oh my goodness, steps. Good. Something like that. Let's find that. Something like that. Right. So, what am I saying? What the hell is all this, man? This Manning people, bro. They do crazy stuff. All right. So, defensive code, I believe, is, so let's say we have that. In valid states, we are trying to model to get rid of. So backwards, this is now more stuff we have to defend against during construction. So imagine now we want to create an instance. Right, we want to say var instance is going to be equal to new instance, right? Correct? Instance. I think that's what we call it. It's going to have a string. Rocket launch. Something like that. Rocket launch. And now you have step, establish a step. Yeah, so you have that. And now in your step you have something like instant now. Then you give it a template. I'll give it template, and technically we should be good, correct? Like that. All right, so public, we should be good. Should be good. Yeah. It's just printing. You can do that and just print. Cool. So technically, say SDK use Java 25. Oracle. Let's wait for it. It should tell us okay, and then we'll just Java old. I think we could just ls this. Okay, so Java old dot Java. All right, so prints, no problem. Exit. So we're good. All right, so defensive programming is saying, all right, is saying here, now we have to have something called a canonical constructor, where you're going to have status, right? And then status would have to, in some way, say, if we have, so what does it mean for something to be completed? We have to have a user that's not null, and then we have to have completed is true. So to be completed, we need a user, and we need is completed. It is completed to equal true. In the case where, so at least this, so if user equal null, and user is null and is completed, equal true, this state is an invalid state. This is just an example. Obviously it's not exhaustive. You wanna throw, it's not thread, but throw new illegal state exception. So this is one step, and I believe what they're saying is by writing this code, we've introduced a problem. So we shouldn't be writing this code, right? Because we want, so the only time that I guess we can actually do this, you can say if it's completed, right? Because change till I, right? So you can do this, right? If, and you can do if this is true and user is null, or time or completed on equal null, if not user but completed by is null. So if any one of this, then we want to throw an illegal state. Now that is exhaustive, right? So if you have basically completed the task and you have any one of this task or the step null, then that's an illegal state, because we want to have who completed the thing and what time they click the complete button, right? So that's one state, and this is what he's saying. By the moment we get into this state where we are defending against things, then something is out of place, right? We're not doing DOP anymore, we're doing something else, right? So that is what he's saying there. Code like this is frustrating because it forces us to not trust our own eyes. Records are supposed to be plain, what you see is what you get, carriers of immutable data, right? I'm not so sure what he means here. This is what makes them so easy to reason about. However, this modeling has caused some of those easy to reason about qualities to be lost. There's a disagreement between what the code says makes up a status versus what actually makes up a status. So I guess how do you reason in my head, how do you reason about a record, right? It's just a plain understanding that this is going to be a data. And the reason why we tend to understand what these are is because if I put this on a straight line, you kind of get the gist, right? I can put this on a straight line as well. It's gonna be less. Let's change it. Where is it? Let's change this. Completed on over. Oh, shite. I know what happened. Alright, so my comments. Right, comments happened. My comments happened. Right. My comments happened. Alright, so if you put this on a straight line, this is very different from this here. Is very different from this here. This is like, oh, this is a step, is going to be type string and is going to be completed. But here you're going to say, okay, this is template, fine. This is step, fine. I can understand them because they are records and I can go to their definition. This is a user, fine. I can see it here. It's just like a single pojo that's final. You have instant, completed on, and then blah. But then you still have to read this, right? And you're going to say, okay, so what does this really mean? So I have to check if this is completed, right? If this is true and we have this, then we want to throw an illegal state all for this. It kind of increases complexity of what a plain old Java is supposed to do or what a record is supposed to mean, which is not so easy for people to understand, I guess is what he is saying. Correct? So let's move on. Reason. There's a disagreement between what the code says makes up a status versus what actually makes up a status. There are secret rules in play, i.e., only some of the fields on these models are used some of the time. It's left to us to figure out when we use it. And when do we use it? This is when we use some of the times, right? That's cool. It's not ideal, but it also isn't the end of the world, right? Oh yeah, and this is the code. This is the code, exactly. Well, illegal argument, I would say this is an illegal state, but he's better. It's not ideal. We've only created 2 additional potential incorrect branches we need to cover, and 2 is a pretty small number. We can use our usual tools to defend against them at construction time. So these are how we defend against them, which is basically what I have here, pseudocode. Yeah. So the other part is when it's not completed and these are not null, that's a problem because you just said you didn't complete them. All right, let's move on. All right. Now we're sort of back in business. The code once again keeps us on track. If we accidentally get things to supply a user, the code will let us know. So let's try and create a var status and create new status. Well, I always do that. New status. It's gonna have a template. I'm gonna give it a template. Template. It's gonna have a step. This step is a list of step or a step. It's gonna have a step. So what is that? A status is gonna have a step. Cool. Give it a step. It's gonna have user. So let's give it a user. Let's say this is null. Let's say, okay, so user is null. Let's say, what is it? After user, what do we need for status. Let's give this null as well, and then let's say this is true, and it's gonna be like, well, this is fine. So it didn't blow us. It didn't blow up for some reason. So so user is true. So that is null. Completed by is null. Completed on is null. So this should be compile time problem, right? If I am not mistaken. And Java version. Oh my god, I have to keep doing this every time. Not a good use. Use SDK use Java 25 Oracle, and I'll say Java old.java. Yeah, so it tells us, hey, boom, this is our problem. Sweet. Not so sweet, but sweet. Cool. But it should be, well, I guess it should happen. It happens at runtime, not compiled. Yeah, it should. I would assume that it should be here, right? But oh well, who cares? However, it's all kind of unsatisfying. We've lost something about our data's meaning without modeling. A crack has shown in our foundation. It's not a big crack, but it's a crack nonetheless. One that we had to patch with a general purpose mortar that is defensive coding. So that's the mortar. But there are sprint deadlines, so we move on. We just move on. So there's one patch we did. We patched and then we moved on. Oh, all right. So that's it for today. See you again